We are in a place where we've just had the 20th anniversary of September 11th, and I think it's kind of poignant that we sit down and talk about those times and how we felt at the time, what kind of impact it had on our lives, and also the fact that we're in this fantastic show, which is based around the events afterwards and what that means to us.
So we were watching it as it happened, and we went home not long after it, maybe a couple of hours later, because school was cancelled. I don't think you really took it in. You were like, I have to be watching a movie, because if you watch any disaster movie over the last 20 years, it looks pretty similar to what we witnessed that day. Yeah. So I think I was just, this can't be real. I don't, you can't really compute it when you're that far away and at that age.
I think I felt that the age thing is a massive reason why I think understanding what that means at a similar age to Alice, a few years older, I was very much like, this is I don't understand how this happened. Words like terrorism or anything like that were pretty new to me, I'd say, in my late teens. It was something that was, of course you can see that there's something bad has happened, but in the first instance, I remember feeling like, I've got no idea what this is all about.
I think I watched it for a long time.
Yeah, I remember watching
the footage that was just replaying on the news.
I barely remember where I was, to be honest.
How old were you?
I was
Were you born?
8.
Were you born?
Okay.
I was, yeah. So I was 8, but I could feel a tenseness and nervousness with all of the adults around me.
Yeah.
It was I think it was the first time that my parents talked about the idea of being othered.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was quite terrifying.
I wasn't at my home at that point, which was in London. I already lived in London because I'm a little bit older than everybody at this point. My husband at the time was working at the Globe Theatre, and that's all I remember was still trying to ring him on the landline because mobiles were so expensive and you couldn't use it. So I got this text, and I'm like trying to ring him on the landline, going, "Don't go into London, please don't go into London. They're saying it might hit every capital city."
Yeah. That's the thing.
And that was the terrifying thing.
That was
it's going to hit London, it's going to hit
everywhere.
Milan, it's going to hit Frankfurt.
London is a very multicultural city, and before this happened, it wasn't uncommon to see people walking around on a tube, walking around the streets, wearing the traditional religious outfit, their garbs or whatever. And I know with a lot of what was in the media, because there was good media and there definitely was bad media.
I don't remember any good media.
And you could not escape the message of, you need to now be vigilant.
Yeah.
You need to suspect everybody.
You suspect
and there
everyone.
was this level of Islamophobia that basically was created.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to think and feel that, and you understand why that is, and obviously you've got a media source telling you what's happened, you know what's happened, but that there's something so, like you said, especially living in London, like for me as well, I'm London born and bred, I live in East London, I've always grown up around, obviously I'm black in my sense, my family, I'm ethnic, I'm an other anyway, and I've grown up in an area that's also the same. So people that absolutely would be my friends, I'd walk down and see lots of people in different colours, and I'm not thinking a minute about anything that you could be doing anything bad to me or want to do anything bad to anyone around me. And then to have that, like you said, because even as an ethnic minority, I probably felt the same thing, going, oh, I'm a little bit nervous about that brown person next to me, when that's not with the bag. Probably the brown person plus bag, maybe, because it was, again, you were so vigilant of backpacks, bags were suddenly this big
still
thing,
are, actually,
and still are. Like, these things don't, and I think the thing that stays with me over the time, like you said, security, all these things, they don't go back to what they were, which there's probably reasons for that, but also there's a sadness in that to me.
Yeah. My sister always says, just look for the helpers. That's my favourite thing about anything bad that we ever have to see on TV. I will say to my 6-year-old, this is done by hate, but look at all those people rushing to help. Look at those people, look at the ambulance people, look at the firemen, which is all I was thinking about when you read that fireman's prayer the other day.
That, it doesn't mean that you're ignoring the terrible. No. You're just saying, but let's
balancing it
You're
out.
changing that focus is...
How long after September 11th, 2001, was it that you've heard about what the people of Gander had actually done?
Can I just say, literally, when I came to see the show, so I want to say 2018, like real talk. I was walking into the auditorium. I came to see it on my own because I knew that you were in it, and one or two other cast members, and I was like, I've got no idea that this happened.
No one has any idea.
And it's funny when obviously this is what happened. As in, like, not the particular events, but you go, obviously the planes had to land somewhere.
Obviously there was more than just those two.
No one thought about them.
Literally.
Well, the media definitely didn't
and
focus
this is
on
it.
them.
That's what I'm saying. Of course, there must have been somewhere on some news channel some good stories, but the vast majority would not have been celebrating anything. And maybe again that's because we're in the UK. The news we're getting is UK news. In the States, I'm sure on more local channels they were getting more of this story earlier on.
I did, because I think the writers, when they were looking at writing a musical about it, they were actually going to do Beverly Bass.
Yeah.
Right.
And they said, oh, she's brilliant because she's the first female Captain America. That's great. What a great story that is. Oh, she actually landed in Gander. Let's go there and find out some stories. Oh, my God.
Yeah, exactly.
Musicals. That was the journey.
Yeah.
So not even they really knew until they sort of, until these people started saying, hold on, we were there for 5 days and it was amazing. Actually, we had the most amazing 5 days and we feel terrible saying that, but we kind of did.
Absolutely mind-blowing in the sense of the sheer number of people that landed. And I know that's not a lot
the population.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a lot of people that would have been there, which is just crazy to think that didn't make some kind of
huge news story.
Yeah,
why was there not like a huge... Yeah.
That's right, a big deal that came out of it.
They didn't make a fuss.
Because they didn't.
That's true.
It's
true. That's what they naturally do. They were always natural. I mean, because that's where they are. They're on this little island, and they're stuck with their fellow neighbours. So if one person is in trouble, they go and help them out. That's the culture they've grown up with, and strangely enough, that culture. And what happened over those 5 days of 9/11, after September 11th, is the lesson of how to be in humanity.
Well, I was going to say, do you think it's told us? I mean, we're in it. Do you think it tells audiences when they watch it that we should all be a little bit more like that?
Oh, 100%.
Because it does to me. Yeah.
I know lots of people who've come to see the show and immediately gone, right, what can I do?
Yeah. Even just like the Pay It Forward, which is the campaign that was started, by Kev T. And I think, and we still do it now, and that's amazing. And I think people go, oh my gosh, I want to do something like that, even if it's just to do something a little bit kind that day. It doesn't have to be £100. It's just to do an act of kindness to move that forward. Because I definitely think it's taught. I keep saying, God, if we're all just a little bit more Newfoundlander, the world would be a nicer place.
Definitely.
Has the show, being in the show, watching the show, hearing the stories about what it's about, has that given, I don't want to say the word closure because it didn't actually directly affect us that much, but has it changed what you feel about not September 11th?
I feel like it's reprogrammed my gut reaction to hearing the word September the 11th. Now when I hear September the 11th, I think of warmth, I think of care, I
how
think
lovely.
of people being kind to each other. That's what I think about, and I'm so glad. I'm so grateful to the variety.
It's funny, looking back, right, everything that happened at September 11th and what that has done in terms of how it's changed the world and how it's changed people's perception of their own community and getting to know your neighbour and looking out for each other. I've noticed that from tragedies following that, with our own terrible tragedy in London, 7/7, Grenfell Towers, and with COVID and other, like Manchester bombing and stuff like that, that level of community seems to hasten. It seems to come a bit quicker. Than I actually remembered it ever happening before.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think what stories about that come from away and the story it puts out there, I think it does change people's gut reaction, as you said, to terrible tragedies. We do look out for our fellow man.
When it was just news, when we got all our news from the news, it was reporting on the terrible things and the bad things, and they have a duty to report those things and to report them accurately. Whereas now, because we've got social media as well, and people can talk about the little stories, as in, like, I'm not diminishing what it is, but as in the stories that the news wouldn't necessarily immediately gravitate towards.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we're more aware of those things, and we can
100%
be
are.
inspired
Yeah.
more.
We can
have
choose
that
the
info.
stories that
For
we,
sure.
that we want to listen and hear, don't we?
Absolutely.
We've got much more carte blanche to say, right, I don't want to listen to just this one view. I've got this view, and this view. You know, I subscribe to a page on Insta called Good News, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One of
me
those
too.
like good news. And
Yeah.
I mean, the stories that are on there, they just literally
nice.
can brighten your day. It can be
Yeah.
the silliest thing about ducks or something totally random, and you're just like, I am so happy
so
now for the
pleased.
rest
Yeah.
of the day. I'm
Yeah.
really happy that you know.
But how do you see people reacting to when they come and see the show? Have any of you guys? I know I have, but have any of you guys had experiences at stage door or around in life where people have found out that you're doing the show, or they've watched you in the show and they've said, "I was there"?
I had the guy that gave Beverly Bass the phone when she calls her husband on the plane. He came, in the first when I did it just before COVID hit. And he sort of grabbed me at stage door and just went, "Hi, I just need to say, I'm the passenger that gave her the phone." And what it made me do, and I think if anyone else did it as well, I just went, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
You know, because it just made me go, "It was real then. I'm really telling a real story."
That's that, isn't it?
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
sure.
what a
Would you
privilege
go-
that we get to retell this true story.
for sure.
That's it. True.
And you know, I don't know if I've never so far in my career told a story that's been a true story, and this just
The Lion
feels
King is definitely
definitely true. Lion King, sorry, guys.
100% true.
Apart from Lion King.
Yes.
I think
Yeah,
that's
that
right.
feels to me, and it's so new still for me as a journey. Like, I feel massively privileged to be telling this story
Yeah.
because it's real, and you have those moments on stage or after stage when you're meeting people, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, this is real.
And people
this
are
is
rushing
life.
back because
Yeah.
it is a parable for, there are lessons. Look, people want that. People want
Yeah.
that.
Two main messages are one, that in the face of disaster, global catastrophe, the only response is generosity and kindness and being welcoming and assisting, helping. It's that is the only way to combat against, acts that are disastrous and evil, and I think that is what the show does in such a tangible way. I think that message is only clear when September 11th stops being an image of planes and buildings and becomes about people.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And the moment you realise that it's people, and people watch the show, and the one word that just kind of pops up all the time afterwards is true, because it's true, especially for people who, at the time when it happened, only saw, like we've all been saying, it didn't seem real, it was a movie. And suddenly, as soon as you put people in front of you, you're like, it's true, it's real. And then the second message, I think, is that you can't you can't make assumptions on who someone is based on what they look like, what they may where they may appear to be from. Like everyone is an individual, and I think the show does that beautifully in its narrative, but also in the technique of us playing multiple characters. There's there are moments in the show where you're not sure who a character is introduced, but you're not sure who that person is. Every single time the show happens and you are introduced, I'm walking in the darkness. I know that people think that I am the person from the Middle East until the spotlight comes on you, and it's about challenging people's
Biases.
expectations, their biases,
Yeah.
and the show does that beautifully well. It's about knowing that if someone is described in one way, you don't automatically go to that person who you think matches that description. It's constantly challenging your views, because we are programmed by society to think certain things, and it's about tackling those.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are a very long way of saying the two main messages that I hope people take from the show.
So I was blessed to grow up in a small fishing community on the northeast coast, which was very, very like Newfoundland. So when I read the musical, I was like,
oh, this is...
But I think if we can keep keying into that feeling of what it was like to be part of that, and then recreating it for each other to remind each other when we're not doing it, then
that's how it happens, isn't it? That's how you keep it going. Yeah.
And we're lucky to have an element of that doing what we do
every day.
As a living, you know, that's what we are a community, and we do kind of, especially in our show, we're in a community show, an ensemble show where we help each other out, and if one person doesn't help the other person, it stops the show, literally. So we kind of have that.
I'm just glad that we get to be in a show that can act as a vehicle to talk about poignant subjects like this. And I hope that many, many more shows and theatre can be used in the same way for people to have, you know, these lessons kind of talked about at the same time as having a bloody great night.
Absolutely. It feels so important, doesn't it?
Guys, it's been nice.
It's been really lovely.
Thanks,
guys.
don't get to chat at work.
We should have
saying lines.
Let's just stay here and have some more tea.